こんにちは、エリンです。今日も一緒に日本語を勉強しましょう。Everyone, thank you so much for your quick and sincere responses and questions. 本当にありがとうございます。Now it's my turn to address you guys and answer some of those questions. So, looking at the YouTube comments, a few of you had a similar question, which was, how do you say, "Can I ask you a question?" in Japanese? A relatively informal way to go about this is 質問してもいいですか? Where 質問 means question and いいですか is a phrase asking permission to ask something from the opposite party. A more formal manner that would be acceptable on a business level conversation would be 質問させていただいてもよろしいでしょうか? Or お尋ねしたい件が Another way to say this would be 伺いたいのですが These are even more polite for the more advanced Japanese speakers. So let's go to the next question. A user asked about Japanese manners. Being polite when you're talking to people is the most important thing when you're in Japan. Polite to the Western sensibility is not polite and sensitive enough for the Japanese. What almost always works is adding すみません in front of a sentence when you're talking to someone who's older or more superior than you. This is to not only lower yourself, but to also thank them for their time. That leads me to the next question about the desumasu form versus the ta form. This really has to do with politeness. The common understanding is that the desumasu form is the more formal one, whereas the ta form is the basic essence of the Japanese language and it's stripped away from all formality or any fancy flourish. For example, I can say 本を読みます, which is the desumasu form. That's more formal than 本を読む, the ta form. However, the whole formality issue behind these is slightly confusing. Although you ideally want to talk in the desumasu form, you would never write academic papers in this form. The ta form is the most professional on paper, so newspapers and essays are written in this form. And there's even a more formal form of Japanese than the desumasu. The desumasu form is called teinego in Japanese, and it's the least formal out of the honorific forms, keigo in Japanese. So in a business setting or in front of someone older or have more experience than you would use a combination of sonkeigo and kenjougo, where sonkeigo elevates the status of another person and kenjougo lowers yourself. For example, there's the word yu in Japanese, which means to say. If your teacher says something to you, you would use sonkeigo to show respect. If you were to say, my teacher said this, you would say, 先生がおっしゃる, where おっしゃる is the sonkeigo form of yu. On the other hand, if you were to say, I say in front of your teacher, you would say, 私が申し上げる, where 申し上げる is the kenjougo form of yu. Oh, by the way, the 質問させていただいてもよろしいでしょうか I said just before is also a kenjougo. Lowering or humbling oneself may not always be an easy concept to understand, especially to some cultures, but it's the norm and it takes up a huge portion of Japanese manners, so it's always good to keep it in mind. Yeah, that was difficult to explain. Don't worry, it's really hard even for a native speaker to get all those correct. It really takes time and practice. So to a more fun topic, Yuki-san 19 asked how to ask someone out on a date in Japanese. The most direct way to say this would be デートしてください、お願いします, where デート is date and してください is asking someone their permission, and the お願いします is the pretty please. But if you want to be more subtle about it, sometimes you don't want to appear too forceful or desperate, right? there are more roundabout ways for asking someone out. Let's say you have 2 movie tickets to an opening night of a movie. You can say, 新作の映画のチケットがちょうど2枚取れたんです。一緒に見に行きませんか? Which means, I was able to get 2 tickets to a new movie. Would you like to watch it with me? And if the person looks a little iffy, you can say, あなたと見たいんです. Which means, I want to watch it with you. Does this help a little bit? I wish all of you the best of luck finding a Japanese boyfriend or girlfriend. And that leads me to the question from Alan Graff. He says, will you marry me? お断りです. No. But here's how you can propose to someone in Japanese. 結婚してください. Oh, so this is an interesting question. Nimzo was asked, where does Aaron come from? I come from Osaka. I would say, 出身は大阪です in Japanese, where 出身 means hometown. I can also say, 大阪から来ました, which means I came from Osaka. However, I currently live in New York. でも今はニューヨークに住んでいます. Okay, a few people asked for translations. 告白の噴水広場 means love proposal at the plaza with the fountain. 草原に立つ2本の木のように means like the 2 trees growing in the grassy plain. やっぱり means just as I thought or just as I expected. So moving right along. When Japanese people add kedo at the end of a sentence, it's usually more of a filler like yeah and, you know. For example, I can say, 私、お昼にカツ丼食べたんですけど、あなたは何を食べましたか? Where I'm saying, I ate a katsudon for lunch. How about you? In this case, the ですけど serves no purpose but to connect the 2 different ideas. However, there's the occasional time when people use it correctly with its original function as a coordinating conjunction that presents a contrast or an exception. For example, I can say, 母は背が高いんですけど、私は背が低いんです. Which means, my mom is tall, but I'm short, where ですけど means but. And the difference between 持っています and あります. It's basically straightforward unless you're talking about money. If you physically have or own something, you would use 持っています. For example, 私はカバンを持っています. I have or am holding a bag. On the other hand, if something physically exists and you're aware of it, you would use あります. For example, ここにコンピューターがあります. There's a laptop here. However, you can use both 持っています and あります for money. お金を持っています and お金があります both means you have money. So, okay, a few people asked about particles. Particles. A lot of these aren't really straightforward. There are many annoying exceptions. The only way to master them is to speak with a Japanese person and have them correct you. But with that said, here are some basic rules. Ga and wa are often used to connect the subject and the verb. For example, 私はエリンです. I am Aaron. Or 犬が吠える. A dog barks. Wa is usually used for something static to describe the state of, whereas ga is used for something dynamic where someone or something is actively doing something. No usually denotes someone or some things. 私のカバン, which means my bag. Wo is usually put between an object and the verb to denote that there's action taking place in relation to the object. For example, カバンを買う, which means buy a bag. Note the wo in between the 가방 and 가우, bag and buy. Ni and it is usually put between the destination and the verb. For example, 海に or 海へ行く, where I'm saying go to the beach. These are used interchangeably, but according to one Japanese linguist, ni emphasizes a destination, whereas it just generally defines an abstract concept of the direction of the destination. For example, if someone asks me where I'm going next week, I can reply, カリフォルニアに行きます or カリフォルニアへ行きます I'm going to Cali. But when I say カリフォルニアに, I'm emphasizing California, as in I'm not going to Arizona or to Boston, I'm going to Cali. On the other hand, when I say カリフォルニアへ, I'm just generally stating that I'm going somewhere and that somewhere happens to be Cali. But honestly, ni and it are used interchangeably, and a lot of people don't know the difference. To is usually used to include two or more things as the object. Basically, with. For example, 私はミシェルさんと海に行きます, where I'm saying I'll go to the beach with Michelle. Oh, and speaking of which, there's an ongoing debate in Japan on how to pronounce the word anime. There are two basic pronunciations, anime and anime. At this point, it's your own choice. It's nothing to argue about with your friends. Wow, that was long. Thank you guys so much for all the questions, comments, and the support. I'm sorry I couldn't cover all of the questions you guys sent, but I'll sure keep them in mind when I'm writing the future lessons. Oh, and make sure you guys keep on posting the questions because we'll soon do a future lesson, something like this one. Oh, and by the way, the thing I say at the end, it means until next time. See you! 次回もお楽しみに。またねー!